Hello and good day everyone. Today the topic of my presentation will be on sources and causes of water pollution. For the causes of water pollution, it is categorized into two different sources, one of which is a point source pollution and the other is a non-point source. For point source pollution, it refers to pollutants that belong to a single source. An example of this could be a waste disposal pipe from a factory into the river, and this type of pollution is usually more easily managed because its impact is more localized and easier to control. Moving on for non-point source pollution, it means that the pollutants are emitted from multiple sources, such as the contaminated water after it rains and travel through different regions, or farm runoff. So for the non-point source pollution, it's usually broad and diffuse, and it's harder to identify and control. In addition to that, there's also pollution can be also categorized to anthropogenic pollution, which is human-caused pollution, and also natural causes. So today, my presentation will be more focused on human causes for water pollution. The first cause of pollution that we will be discussing today is sewage and wastewater, more specifically, leakage from sewage lines. Now, this type of pollution will happen when inadequate sewage collection and treatment sources. Hello and good day everyone. Today, the topic of my presentation will be on sources and causes of water pollution. For the sources of pollution, it can be divided into two categories, one of which is a point source pollution and the other is a non-point source pollution. Point source refers to a pollutant that's belong to a single source, and for non-point source, it means that pollutants are emanating from multiple sources. Point source pollution are usually easier to clean up because the impact is more localized and easier to control. Meanwhile, non-point source pollution are difficult to clean up and it's usually harder to identify and control. So in addition to that, pollution can be also categorized as anthropogenic pollution or natural pollution. So for today, my discussion will be focusing on anthropogenic or human-caused pollution. Firstly, it's pollution caused by sewage and wastewater. This can be more specifically explained to be leakage from sewer lines. Based on studies, according to the United Nations, more than 80% of worldwide wastewater goes back into the environment without being treated or reused. The sewage water carries harmful bacteria and chemicals that can cause serious health problems. Pathogens are known as common water pollutants, and the sewer city houses several pathogens and thereby disease. Microorganisms in water are known to be cause of some very deadly diseases and become the breeding grounds for other creatures that act as carriers. These carriers inflict these diseases through various forms of contact onto an individual. A very common example of this process would be malaria. A small leakage from the sewer lines can contaminate the underground water and make it unfit for people to drink. Also, when not repaired on time, the leaking water can come onto the surface and also become a breeding ground for insects and mosquitoes. Moving on to the second point, it's urbanization and deforestation. Even though it does not have a direct impact on water quality, urbanization and deforestation have a lot of indirect effects. For instance, cutting down trees and concreting over large areas generates an acceleration of flows which does not give enough time for water to infiltrate and purified by the ground. As the population has grown, so has the demand for housing, food, and clothes. As more cities and towns are developed, they have resulted in increasing use of fertilizers to produce more food, soil, and erosion can be caused from deforestation, increasing construction activities, and inadequate sewer collection and treatment. Thirdly, it's leakage from landfills. The landfills are nothing but huge piles of garbage that produces an awful smell and can be seen across the city. When it rains, the landfills may leak, and the leaking of landfills can pollute the underground water with a large variety of contaminants. The fourth source of water pollution are animal waste. The waste produced by animals is washed away into the rivers when it rains. It gets mixed up with other harmful chemicals and causes various waterborne diseases like cholera, diarrhea, jaundice, dysentery, and typhoid. The chemical compounds in animal waste also contains nitrites and ammonia, which may cause eutrophication in water sources when leaked into the water. Now moving on for agriculture. Agriculture has an impact on water pollution due to the use of chemicals such as fertilizers, pesticides, fungicides, herbicides, or insecticides running out in the water, as well as livestock excrement, manure, and methane. For chemical fertilizers and pesticides, it will cause great harm to the oceanic animals when being leaked into the water. Regarding aquaculture, pollution is directly leaked into the water as excess food and fertilizers are causing dystrophication. Now for industrial waste or causes from the industry. Industry produce a lot of waste containing toxic chemicals and pollutants. A huge amount of industrial waste is drained into the fresh water, which flows into canals, rivers, and eventually into the sea. Industries produce a huge amount of waste that contains toxic chemicals, specifically heavy metals such as lead, mercury, sulfur, asbestos, nitrate, and many other harmful chemicals. These toxic chemicals have the capacity to change the color of the water, increasing the number of minerals, which will cause eutrophication, as well as changing the temperature of the water and pose a serious hazard to the water organisms. Now moving on to the burning of fossil fuels. Fossil fuels like coal and oil, when burnt, produce a substantial amount of ash in the atmosphere. The ash usually contains carbon monoxide, carbon, or even sulfuric gases. These particles, which contain toxic chemicals when mixed with water vapor, results in acid rain. The acid rain will fall into the earth and eventually will end up back into the water supply. Furthermore, marine dumping is also one of the more severe causes of water pollution. Every day, garbage such as plastic, paper, aluminium, food, glass, or rubber are deposited into the sea. These items will take weeks or up to 100 years to decompose, and thus they are major causes of water pollution. The garbage produced by each household in the form of paper, aluminium, rubber is collected and deposited into the sea in some countries. These items When such items enter the sea, it may be consumed by other animals, such as turtles, or it can be decomposed into microplastics, which will also harm the fishes by being eaten by fish or harming their gills when the fish swim around in the water. Now moving on to radioactive waste. Radioactive waste is generated, among others, by power plants and uranium mining. When the substances are released accidentally or disposed improperly, they threaten groundwater, surface water, as well as marine resources. Nuclear energy is produced using nuclear fusion or fission. The element that is used in the production of nuclear energy is uranium, which is a highly toxic chemical. The nuclear waste that is produced by radioactive material needs to be disposed of to prevent any nuclear accidents. Now for the last slide for sources and causes of water pollution. The 10th source will be mining activities. Mining is a process of crushing rocks and extracting the coal and other minerals from underground. These elements, when extracted in the raw form, contain harmful chemicals that can increase the number of toxic elements when mixed up with water, which may result in health problems. And following that, it's accidental oil leakage. Oil spill poses a huge concern as a large amount of oil enters into the sea, does not dissolve into water, thereby open up problems for local marine wildlife such as fish, birds, and sea otters. These problems can inhibit the oxygen diffusion or gas exchange from the air into the water, since oil spills will generally float on top of the water. In addition to that, it will also inhibit sunlight penetration, thus reducing the amount of primary production into the water. Last but not least, it's underground storage leakage. This is as similar to sewer leakage or burning of fossil fuels, as the leakage in underground pipes may cause damage to the groundwater supply, making the water unclean and unable to be consumed by humans. And that will conclude my presentation part. Thank you.